Ignore the psycho dog behind us. Days of Solar Shed, day 41, Rafter's Revenge, the splintering. Today is all about tying down the roof the rest of the way. First up is we're going to look at this LVL that runs right down the middle. It runs on the back of the rectangle over this big open area in the circle, which I'm in right now. We want to make sure that this LVL is properly supported so that it won't ever move to the front or the back, but it will stay vertical and straight. Now, Ashley's dad had a great idea for this. We're going to take some 2x4s that run all the way down to the bag and then all the way up past the beam to the rafter, and we're going to screw it to the rafter, to the beam, and then let the bottom of that rest on the bag so that it provides some extra width and support so that that beam can't flip-flop anywhere, right? But anywhere that we can, we're going to support those beams vertically. Yesterday we hand tightened our hurricane ties, but today we're going to come back with the ratcheting tool and really snug them all down to the tension that we need them to be to create a single structure out of the roof and the earth bags. And so just a quick reminder, if you didn't know, these straps, we installed them many days ago. They're like 6 to 8 bag levels down. So there's all this bag weight that's on top of those straps, and then they're run over the rafters or the beams, depending on where it's at, and now they're tensioned down. And so that will create a single structure out of all these materials. We've got a little bit of time left today, so we're going to start on our fascia boards. Now, it's crazy windy, and so I don't think we're going to be able to get up on the scaffolding. We may have to actually get up on the roof and kind of come up and screw them in backwards. But we're going to try to at least get the front done today so that we can work on the back tomorrow.
Winterland, tell me all your secrets. Fill me in on your wildest moments. Colored trees, your yellow leaves move me. Dancing roofs, your painted red shakes the room. When I get there, I'll let my feet roam. When I get there, I'll break in your arms, I'll lose control. When I get there, I'll know the answer. Let me know when I get closer. Winterland, you're my sailing ship. Guide me in when you head for your trip, right?
Take a video of me with my Jesus hair.
to another question and answer session with Jonathan and Ashley.
Today we are looking back at day 36.
Why are we such nerds?
I don't know.
Okay.
Day 36 was a very exciting day because we put our first rafters up. But before we did that, because we're trying to share all the background of how we actually got to that point, there was a lot of math.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of math.
That we didn't do.
No, that your dad did.
Yeah.
But
he did teach us how to math.
Yes, and so the Pythagorean theorem was what we were trying to deal with. So we have the 3 beams, right? And we have one beam going from the back to the middle, and then another beam going from the middle to the front. And so he actually had to do that math twice to figure out exactly where the bird's mouth cuts need to go.
Yeah.
We're going to talk more about the bird's mouth cuts in a little bit. The reason that he did all that is we had to know how long those beams needed to be.
Ooh,
Oh, hi, Nine. We wanted to make sure that we had all of that locked in, and we knew the exact, that was when we found out the pitch of the roof, the 1 5/16 12. But yeah, that's how we started the day, was sitting down at the table, having some orange juice, doing a lot of math. So we did take a detour before we got to rafters though, and we decided to take out the arch that separates. So we have an entryway that goes from the rectangle building to the circle building. It's had a big wooden form in it since we started the project, and it was finally time to take it out.
Yeah, but that bottom part of the form was really deep because the original plan for this building was to build a dome. So the walls would have been stepping in and we needed that depth.
Right.
But because we changed our plans,
Went to a cylinder instead of a dome.
it didn't come out so easily.
The top part did, the dome, the arch.
Yeah.
What do you call it? The arch?
It was
the
the
arch came out easily. That other part was just really stuck in there, and we ended up collapsing some of the bottom bag that it was sitting on. We ended up having to like take the thing apart just to get it out.
Yeah, but it's all fixable. Like, it's
Yeah.
not a big issue.
Not a big deal.
No.
But when it came out, it was so cool.
Yeah.
We were so excited.
Nothing fell. It was so cool.
Yeah, the arch overhead, we added extra cement there so we felt like it's splitting sturdy.
Yeah.
We just would probably build that bottom form a little bit differently next time.
For sure.
After we put all those bags in the day before and got the middle beam up to the right height. Are you looking at him? Or are you...
Yeah, sorry.
What is your... Ignore the psycho dog behind us. All right, so before we could actually start laying rafters down, we did want to make sure and check that our front beam and our back beam were square and parallel and all that stuff. So we measured corner to corner, and we were like within a
1/8 of an inch.
1/8 of an inch, which
Yep.
is insane. That's amazing.
Yep.
Again, maths, all the maths. It does pay off, kids. Do your math in school. Also, before we could lay the rafters down, your dad had a really good idea because those LVLs were only 1.5 inches thick. He thought it would be a good idea to add a 2x4 to the back of both of those all the way across so that we had more surface area to set the rafters on. So that took a little bit of time to sort of run 2x4s all the way down there and screw them in. And then also we went back and we marked every single spot that a rafter was going to go on each of the beams. But once we finally got all that marked and we got the 2x4s in the back, now it's your turn to tell me how in the world you figured out all this bird's mouth stuff, because I don't know how that works.
Well, actually, Dad figured out and just made a template with the square for me. So we used these brass pins on a framing square, and then it was super easy from there. I just measured, I marked exactly where Dad told me.
And
I just did what I was told.
So some people will put up all the rafters and then snap a level line and like cut the fronts off, but your dad was like, no, we're gonna cut all this down here and stick it up and it will be perfect. And that's pretty much what happened.
That's what happened.
So using that framing square and those brass pins.
Well, what we did was set the angle.
Right.
And then just did all the math as to where that end needed to be cut off.
Right.
And it was perfect.
And so you knew exactly where to cut that notch out and then to come down. And then when we set it up on the rafter, it went right into place. Now, that's only partially true, because when you're doing something like this, it's not going to be perfect. So Ashley was on bird's mouth duty, and she was just cutting those things like crazy, getting a huge stack for us. And then Dick and I were up there putting the rafters into place. And we did have to make some adjustments, you know, even though you've cut all your bird's mouths perfectly. Things shifted a little bit when we added that second row of bags. We actually pushed the back beam back like just a little bit. And so as we went down the line, we were making adjustments to the middle LVL and the back LVL to make sure that the notches fit right on them.
Minor adjustments.
Minor adjustments, all fixable,
Yep.
as your dad said, and perfectly understandable when you're building a building like this. Now, a lot of people have asked how we attached the rafters to the beams. Yeah, which is a great question because we time-lapsed from far away and we didn't really show that. So the way that we started them to get them in place for putting the decking on is we just toe-nailed 3 screws.
So we did 2 on one side and 1 on the other.
And then at one point, and then on the back point, we did the opposite.
Yep.
And
that was just to hold it temporarily, right?
Yeah, because again, everything, we're trying to keep it all floating until we get everything in place and it's all square and ready to go. And so that's how we attached the rafters on that day. And that's how we put the other rafters in too. And we really didn't even get to any hurricane ties or anything until much later in the process, once it was all kind of finished and put together.
And once the decking was in place.
Right, yeah, because there was still potential for things to move. Like we were still moving the tops of those rafters as we were putting the decking in to make sure everything stayed
16 on 20.
straight up and down.
So, but that was like all we did on day 36, right?
It was a lot. I mean, it was a lot.
It was a full day.
It was a big day because we got to see that pitch start.
Yeah.
We were like, oh.
Yeah. It was very exciting to see those rafters go up.
Yeah. So tomorrow we're going to talk about day 37, which is when we put the rest of the rafters on, and we started putting the decking on too.
Yeah.
That was an even bigger day.
Yeah.
We got a lot more done that day because, again, we already had the system set up.
We will cover all that tomorrow, and we will see you then.
You're here again knocking at my door. A little too late for, I'm sorry for. The lights went out cause you kept cutting the cord, and I started to fade into your gray. See, I finally opened up my eyes.